friends, welcome back to my channel. Believe it or not, we are 7 months into the year and it's time to do another update on my Pan That palette for 2018. It's not been too long since my last update. It's only been about 3 weeks because again, I had an extra week when I was in San Francisco at the beginning of July, and so the progress on here will look a little less than other months, but let's go ahead and start by refreshing you on where I was after 6 months of usage. This is what my palette looks like after 7 months of usage. Alright, so we'll talk about the things that you maybe noticed right away. The first is that khaki is completely gone. I went back and forth about using the rest of it up because it was such an easy color for me and I felt like it would have been helpful to have for the fall, but in the end I couldn't help it and ended up using it up entirely. I also have been diligently working on vanilla, and you can see I've widened the pan and even hit some side pan over here as well. I also managed to get the tiniest little dot of pan on sienna. I had burrowed my way through that a few months ago, but hadn't actually hit pan just yet. I've also been working quite a bit on wisteria. I have really widened that general pan area up there. Aside from that, there is not a lot of usage that you can see, and that's partly because it's only been 3 weeks. And second, I really wanted to use the month of July to do some exploring because, as I had said back in my 6-month update, I am getting a little nervous that once really vanilla is gone, a lot of my brownish base colors in here, I won't really necessarily know how to use them or get them worked through. Some people might say, well, just use sand, but I've really been saving sand for fawn, camel, and sepia. I think they pair really nicely. And then I've done a few sand looks with copper and sienna. So sand is really helpful for a lot of other colors that I don't want to necessarily just ditch that and then use sand with browns. I do have opal in here. I didn't really use it this month, but opal has some gold in it too, so I definitely could try to work in some of these more goldeny or warm toned colors to go with it. As I mentioned, I was doing some exploration, and the first combination I tried that wasn't successful was I tried using Dusty Rose and Dusty Plum. I had gotten the suggestion to use these one color on the lid, one color on my crease, and unfortunately for me, I found the tones were too similar, and so when I was actually using them, they just sort of muddied together and created what almost looked like one shadow on my entire crease and lid area, and I'm someone who likes the contrast of your crease and your lid, and so I'm never really a one and done kind of shadow person, so I wasn't really a big fan of that combination. And then I also tried using granite. I wanted to see how that would work out because I have not found brown to be my favorite. Brown comes across much darker on my skin than it looks in the pan. And there have been a couple of times I wore brown in the crease, the last month of school, and I was like, oh, I feel like this looks a little heavy. I'm not a smoky eye kind of person for school. That just feels like too much, too stark, too much makeup. I don't know, I'm just not a fan of it. So I tried using granite, and this one is out of here. It is being evicted. Granite is really patchy and hard to blend, and it also has chunks of glitter, which is frustrating because when you swatch it, you can kind of see it, but it's not that bad, so I thought I would give it a try. And no, literally all the glitter fell down under here, and I couldn't get it off my face. I just don't like it. I'm not gonna mess with it. I don't like that I will now be up to 6 shades in here that I have decluttered as opposed to using them up. But the reality is this palette is so big that I think it's impossible to love every shade in here or to find that every color is of the most amazing quality ever. So that was like my other kind of fail. I did use Merlot a couple of times, and I do think it will be a good color to use in the fall if I can find the right lid shade to pair with it. I don't think it would be too much at school. And then the other discovery that I made was I originally had been trying to use Fawn a while back as a all over like base color the way I was using cream and white, but I told you guys it was too dark. Well, let me tell you, Fawn and Camel might look a little different in the pans, but when they are blended in my crease, they look the exact same. I do like Fawn, Camel, and Sepia, but really, Fawn and Camel are the same effect to me, and Sepia is like a little bit of a warmer, a little bit darker shade. However, Fawn is really powdery. So I maybe used it like 3 times, and I feel like you could see some distinct usage happening off of there, and maybe it's not reading on camera very well, but you really can see some distinct usage on here. So that's where we're at with this. I really am still enjoying Wisteria, so I will still make efforts on this one. I probably will either get vanilla or sand used up, or if I decide to not commit fully to using it up, I'll probably focus a lot more on opal. But either way, you're gonna see some progress happening over here, which, I mean, is good and bad in the sense that I am working through colors. I'm already starting to think about what I'm gonna do for 2019 Pan That palette, which it seems far away, but it's also not. This is about the time last year I started to think about wanting to use this palette. So I'm trying to figure out, you know, projecting where I'll probably be at the end of this year, and if I'd want to continue working with this. Obviously, I'd have to pull other stuff in. So I'd be curious to know your thoughts at the moment, if you would like to see me like make another palette of more like lid shades to couple with this and keep working with this, depending on obviously where it's at come December, or if you'd rather see me try something else entirely. I myself am not fully decided on it. The other thing I wanted to show you guys really fast was just where I was at with the cream shade that I had been working with. I had pulled out my NYC Individual Eyes in Midtown Mauve, and I really have worked steadily through this. I was actually surprised. It was only like maybe a few days after I had filmed my last update that I hit pan on this, and quite frankly, this would be gone if it wasn't so challenging to get product out of it at this particular point. I know a lot of people would probably just repress this, but I find that anything that's in an eyeshadow palette, I have a really hard time repressing. The other thing is, I also feel like I do lose some product when I repan it, and there's so little left in here that I feel like if I repan it, I'm gonna lose probably half of what's left in here, and then at that point, is it really worth it to even repan it? The other thing that I just want to make note of is, as I do pull out these palettes and pan a cream, I also assess if I would want to keep the eyeshadow that's left in here, and I couldn't remember. I knew I had loved this at one point, but I wasn't sure if I would still like this so many years after the fact and so much more makeup that I've explored since then. So I did do a couple of eye looks with this, and I do still really like it. I do not like these cream shades. Once the actual cream powder shadow is done in here, and then I'll just have this little trio. I'll also probably depot this in general and just keep it into another palette. That way it's not taking up so much space, but I was at least happy to have rediscovered this, and that'll be another cream. I'll probably finish this up before August is over, so then I'll just pull something else out. But that is it for me and this particular update. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you in my next video real soon. Bye.